I guess like we never really stop writing and recording, and feel very lucky to get to still do that. But yeah, so I've spent a lot of this year writing our third album, which sounds and feels very strange to say that, but so it's been really fun. I'm wanting to do something that feels a bit different, wanting to sort of take it a step on from our last record and kind of, I don't know, I think it acknowledged that since we released that album, that you know, the world seems even more bizarre and tempestuous place, but to not necessarily dwell on that as much as maybe we have, and to kind of make an apocalyptic party record. I basically can't describe it because I think it probably sounds really fucking awful, but I feel like with our last album, it was very long and sprawling, and we wanted to try loads of different sounds, and I think we realised more than ever, in a positive and negative way, that as soon as I sing over something, it just sounds like Bastille. So that's a kind of challenge for us, and because we never, you know, even on our first record, in terms of the actual sonics, like there'd be a track that was like piano and some drums, and there'd be a track that was like distorted 808 beats and stuff, and only synthesizers, and yet it all, in some people's ears, just all sounded the same. And I think, you know, on our last record, we had everything from like massive string sections and brass through to like just programmed stuff and like heavily auto-tuned things and completely live single guitar takes. You know, so it's sort of, that was very much us wanting to show that we could try a lot of different things. Being optimistic and assuming that we were able to make another few records. What excites me more is smaller, concise records that have a much more unified sound. And so we're kind of putting together a record of like middle of the night sort of torch songs with elements of like slightly nostalgic rave beats and sounds to them, from the sort of like Fatboy Slim Prodigy era. But it sounds completely ridiculous when I say it out loud. But we just want to make something that feels concise and short and like the nighttime. If the last record was kind of choosing to confront the world and question it, and you know, talk about how confused you are by it, that maybe where we go next is somewhere in a slightly different space. And, you know, of like, we talked about wanting to acknowledge that regardless of all that, some people choose to ignore it, and some people, you know, everybody has to get up the next day and go to work, and everybody's lives go on, you know, unless we all get killed by a nuclear war, which hopefully won't happen. But yeah, I sort of want to make a slightly less sweeping record, and one that's just a bit more fun. I think, having spent the last year singing songs about how abhorrent we find the opinions of people like Donald Trump and Theresa May and a lot of politicians and a lot of kind of people who preach negativity and hate and all that kind of stuff and bigotry. I think it's been quite cathartic singing those songs, and I'm really happy that we wrote them, and I'm happy with the production that we've toured. I love it, and I'm really, really proud of it. But I also had these moments standing on stage. You know, we played a festival called Rock and Ring, and it was this Friday night. It was quite a big slot for us, kind of like headlining one of these stages at this big German festival, and there was a sort of terrorist threat incident, and the entire festival was shut down. 80,000 people were evacuated, and we played it on the Sunday because it's like Reading and Leeds, so we did the other one. And I think I kind of had this moment on stage of being like, yeah, this stuff is real, and it's sort of, it can affect you no matter what country you're in and no matter what you're up to. And I think that's what's so terrifying and shocking about it. But also, I think people definitely look to music and to art to kind of, to sort of, to be reminded of those things, but they also look to it for escapism as well. So I don't know, I think just looking forward, and I'm being super honest about it, I just want to try and find a way to strike the right balance. I've just been working on a lot of new music for different things, for like certain TV shows and films, and have a mixtape coming out before the end of the year that I'm really excited about. Other People's Heartache Part 4, which with our first two mixtapes, they were kind of it was before our first record, and it was a combination of covers and mashups and pop culture references and film quotes and film scores and all these different elements that we loved. And it was really just a space to sort of mess around with production and I guess take the piss out of ourselves a little bit by doing covers of songs very dramatically that were maybe seen as slightly disposable at the time, but and are definitely songs that you wouldn't expect a band to cover. But just, I don't know, I guess very respectfully and affectionately to do these covers of these songs. One of the tracks on it is this, we were asked to do a cover of Basket Case. So as a Green Day fan, I was sort of very hesitant to touch that song because it's such a classic and it's one that we love loads. But we thought that with their blessing, we would do it. And rather than remotely try and do anything similar, I was like, let's flip the song on its head. Let's do it without a band at all and just with a string section and a brass section and some orchestral percussion. But yeah, so we're just carving this mixtape, which is, I think the thing that's really exciting about it for us is having spent years on our first record and then 3 years on our second record. I really like the idea of just being able to put this mixtape out within months of having made it and then follow it up with our third album, because I get that music industry is very different to how it was years ago, but there's something looking back to sort of bands from bygone eras that we love, maybe because they relied less on touring, but I think to look at the output of the Bowies and the Beatles of the world, and I think there was much more space for them to experiment and to try different things and to try radically different sounds from what they'd done before, because there was the ability to just constantly create and put things out, and I guess I'm jealous of that time.